Howdy folks, Timber Drifter here. So I'm out on a canoe trip, exploring a river that I've been on a few times, but I've never come north on the river. It's not very far from where I live, and I usually head south into the headwaters, and this river flows north for quite a few miles before it turns back south and flows into Green Bay, I think. Pretty far from here. So my goal for this trip was just to explore the northern flowing section of it before it turns and heads back south, or heads south, and explore a few of the creeks that flow into it. So spent a couple of days doing that. Then I came to a spot later yesterday where the speed picked up quite a bit and I could hear rapids in front of me. And I came around a bend, the speed really started picking up. I could sort of see the rapids ahead of me just a little bit, but I could really hear them. And I saw a place to pull in, so I just zipped right in. My desire to run rapids unseen dissolved sometime around the age of 35. So I figured I'd pull in and take a look at them and see if there was a way to get around them, a portage trail. And it looked like there was one here, but the portage trail here actually just takes you around this section and goes to an even worse part of the rapids. And I spent a good deal of time this morning exploring, and there's no portage trail and there's no good way to make one. The little landmass I'm on is basically an island in a lot of bog, a very rocky island. There's stones on this island the size of a house. So there's no real way to get into a safe spot on the river below the rapids from this island without dragging your canoe through really thick woods and then bog for a long way. However, consulting my map this morning while I was sitting here drinking coffee, I see that the landmass directly across the river from here is a much longer finger of land, and the river flows closer to it after this little canyon, this little stony canyon. So when I get packed up, I'm going to push back in the river, which is going to be a little tight because I'm just above the rapids. So I'm really going to have to paddle like hell to get upriver far enough to turn around and drift back down and see if I can spot a place to land on the other side. So it'll be exciting. But I'm going to be trying out or starting the break-in process on a pipe that my mom sent me. It's a Yellow Bowl Aristocrat. I believe it's from the 60s. Just looking around online. I could be wrong about that, but it's unsmoked. The stem needs buffing, but I don't really care about that. Break it in with some velvet. Good old cheap American pipe with some good old cheap American pipe tobacco. Yeah, I had a nice night here last night. It turns out this is a pretty decent campsite, and one that's obviously been used a lot over the years. But not much recently. The most recent garbage I can find is probably a year old, and most of the rest of it is about 20 years old. Old PBR cans, and even some old steel cans, which are older than that. But I can tell that people have pulled in here fairly recently. It might be a good fishing spot, I don't know. I tried a little bit last night, but I don't really know how to fish fast water like this. And there are trout in this river, which surprises me a little bit. But I actually saw one yesterday, so that confirms that the water is very dark. But I actually saw a trout surface and looked right at me, which I thought was pretty cool. Like, what are you? Yeah. Doesn't look to me like there's any good way to run these rapids. I mean, it could be done, for sure. and the water's not that deep. But there's a lot of trees in them, and a lot of rocks, and it's pretty narrow, and there's a lot of overhanging brush and alder. So altogether, not an ideal situation, and this is just a camping trip, and it's dangerous enough just being on a river by yourself. This is not a survival situation, so I'm not going to make it one by running some rapids. So, I'll get over to the other side here and see if there's a decent portage trail or a way to make one. See if I can get a better look at the far end of the rapids, and if there isn't, then I'll probably just camp over there and spend the day exploring. That's a pretty good chunk of land over there. I would like to get further north on the river, but I also crossed 11 beaver dams getting to this point, and I'll be going upriver, going back. And the water's pretty high, so the water's just flowing right over those beaver dams, which is going to be a pain in the ass trying to get over it. You have to work up a lot of speed to get up and over them and try not to get turned around and get pushed back. So they're all underwater right now. So like I said, you can just go right over them. But it's actually easier going upriver against beaver dams if they're exposed, so you can get out on them and pull your canoe over. Stepping on a submerged beaver dam is pretty dangerous. You can't see what's there. The beavers aren't able to maintain the structural integrity of it by packing mud and sticks in there, so you could end up stepping off into a spot where you get your leg pinched between logs in the middle of a river. So I'll not be stepping out. If I can't get over any of the beaver dams, I'll go to the side and pull my canoe up in the marsh. This river is almost entirely in bog. It's rare that you see land close to the river. So I'll just pull up into the side and just wade through that crap and pull my canoe around far enough around it. Or just some places I might even be able to pull myself along in the grass. We'll see. So even if I don't make it further north on the river, I've got quite a lot of work just getting back. So that's all right. Smoking very sweet. I have had several yellow bull pipes over the years, and one of them is actually a favorite, a long-time favorite. It's a bulldog. It's also the aristocrat line. And the ones that I've had that I think were from the 70s and 80s, if they were even that late, they actually had kind of a yellow coating in the bowl, whereas this one has some kind of coating in the bowl, but it has no color to it. By the way, it's smoking sweet. Always that first smoke out of an unsmoked pipe. You can really taste the tobacco more than you can until the pipe really gets broken in with quite a charcoal layer and is clean later on. Well, I'm not going to move this camera around too much because I don't want to lose my mount, but I've got my tarp and hammock set up over there. My canoe is here. And this is kind of my little hearth area. I've got the last of the coffee heating up over the last of the coals. Might be able to see that, I don't know. So I've got the pot suspended on a stick over the fire with a Y stick there, and then there's another stick behind there with notches cut into it. There goes a deer. You hear that blowing sound and the stomping? Hope you could. So right now I've got it sitting directly on top of the coals, and then right there is my frying pan with the wooden handle fitted into a socket. It's the bucket that I keep my food in, my pack, there we go. That dry bag there, it's like a fanny pack, a belt pouch, dry bag. That's what I keep my phone and battery pack and wallet, fire starting kit, small first aid kit. And that stays on me when I'm in the canoe. And then my water filtration is here. And my axe, directly below it. It's funny, I notice I don't move without the axe. When I'm out of the canoe, I don't walk away from camp without it. And I guess it's kind of built in at this point. I think if I have some kind of situation that I might need to get out of, like if I get lost, or I lose my canoe, or a bear comes and just destroys all my shit, whatever. The axe is the thing that I'm really not willing to be without. If I have to walk out of here, I'm going to need that. And there's a few other things that I obviously I don't keep the axe on me all the time, but if I've got my pants on, I've got a pistol on, a compass, a knife, and a fire starter, as well as the lighters in my pockets, and bandanas and paracord just on the pants. A couple of birds fighting over here. Woodpeckers. So the pistol is it's just in case I wake up in the middle of the night hanging in my hammock with a bear taking a bite out of my ass out of curiosity what I am. Or the very rare occasion that you could possibly be troubled by a black bear. And I was false charged not that long ago by a mother with one cub, not two cubs. I don't know why they call it a false charge. It was a real charge. She just didn't take me out. So in general, I'm not worried about black bears bothering me. But it's kind of like carrying a fire starting kit and some of the other survival gear. If you need it, you really need it. Most of the time, you don't need it. It's not useful for anything else. The pistol, I mean, the other stuff all has other uses. But the pistol is not useful for anything else, perhaps signaling, but I can't really even imagine that situation. Yeah, the stuff, so what I tend to carry on me all the time, out in the woods, I mean, more companion, companion, little piece of shock cord just to make sure it stays in there. It's a Schrade 225H. Between those two and the axe, that handles any of my cutlery needs. I'm not out here chopping brush trying to look cool on YouTube. I'm just using my knives for things I do around camp, like slicing onions and making tinder. or carving notches and spatulas and things like that for cooking with, and hanging pots, tent stakes. My compass stays right on the front of my belt in a grenade pouch. I don't know if and it's actually tied to the pouch. Silva Engineer compass. Had it for a number of years. It's quite durable. And then it's the original Springfield XD40. As you can see, there's, if you're familiar with these pistols, there's no finish left on the slide or any of the other metal parts. And I stippled the grip probably 10 years ago. I've had it a long time. Loaded with 12 rounds of 180 grain solid point. Adequate bear ammo, black bear ammo. You want a solid point for penetration on a large bodied animal like a bear. A hollow point, although it may be effective, isn't necessarily going to penetrate far enough to do serious damage on a heavy bodied animal. Just my thoughts on it. Well, grab a little bit of the last of the coffee here. Pipe smoking good. Coffee was good. I had a half an onion and a can of roast beef hash fried up over the coals for breakfast. Sat here and watched the sun come up with the fire going and the coffee on. Enjoying a pipe of Grassmere Flake. Now it's starting to warm up, so I can take my sweatshirt and jacket off. It's pretty chilly this morning. There was a couple times last night I was rolling around in the hammock trying to get my blanket situated. Had a deer walk into one of my guy lines on my tarp last night. So where I'm set up, it's close to a deer trail, but it's not on a deer trail. And I was careful to keep the guy lines or the corners of the tarp from touching the trail. In fact, the trail's about, at the closest, maybe 15 foot away from the edge of my tarp and guy lines. But even so, one was wandering off trail and ran into the guy lines last night and shook the whole shit, which woke me up in a state of panic. Flashlight came on, pistol up, and I heard galloping hooves off and breaking brush in the distance, and I thought, alright, that was a deer, not a bear. Little excitement in the middle of the night. It's funny, I had only one close encounter with a black bear where it didn't run away in like 15 years. And then last year and this year, I've had far too many. I guess I'm just where they are. and their population is up, so, or it seems to be. I never used to run into this many bear. They always used to run away, and sometimes they don't now. So I'm spooked. But not enough. Not spooked enough to keep me out of the woods. No. Alright. That's a long enough video. I may make another one while I'm out here. I don't know. We'll see. I'm having a good time. I don't really feel like documenting it. But y'all take care. Get outside.